Driving down this quiet, lonely road known as Brannan Island Road, you run into a small community in Isleton where everyone knows everyone. On one side of the road sits the Lighthouse Marina Resort, where dozens of campers stay year-round. On the other side, you'll find a local favorite called the Lighthouse Bar and Grill, which is surrounded by the Mokelumne River. On most days, not much happens in this rural part of Sacramento County. But it was in these murky waters on April 8, 2018, on a cool spring Sunday morning, that a bag containing a body was pulled out of the river. Residents recall a young teen who was staying with his grandparents at the resort made the discovery while fishing at the docks attached to the restaurant.
As he was fishing, he casted his line and caught what he believed was a large item. He reeled that item onto the docks. Inside of the bag were human remains.
According to accounts from people who live out here, the terrified teen ran to tell a manager about the body parts. They called the Sacramento County Sheriff's Office. Deputies responded along with CSI and homicide detectives. It was a woman's body, thrown away like garbage. They collected evidence and went to work trying to solve the murder mystery. The Sacramento Coroner's Office used DNA and investigative genetic genealogy to identify the woman. It was Raven Labit, a 22-year-old mother who had moved to Sacramento just a few months before her death. What can you say about maybe the last moments that Raven had alive?
Terrifying. Her last moments were very terrifying.
To confirm her identity, detectives needed to travel and speak with Raven's parents, who live in Fayetteville, Arkansas.
I wasn't sure how to process that. It's something I hope no parent ever has to experience, right? I've experienced death in the family, a lot of us have, especially as you get older. But that one, to this day, I still struggle with how to process that.
Her father, Rich Labit, who still lives in Fayetteville, copes with her loss, in his own words, by blocking things out. Almost 2,000 miles away from Sacramento, we sat down with him for a one-on-one interview. He remembers his daughter for being adventurous and fearless, and the very special moments when she gave birth to her daughter, Rose.
Actually, some of my more fond pictures are of Raven when she gave birth.
Her father says Raven, who would have turned 23 years old just a few months after her body was found, had aspirations to become a medical transcriptionist and had made arrangements to start taking classes. Rich says she would communicate with him fairly frequently, and then one day out of the blue,
no texts, just kind of spotty at best communication. I get a text every month or two, and then it was 4 or 5 months, and very, very short, very brief text messages. There were times where I would have communication with her and I would question, is this really Raven?
One day, Raven texted her father saying she was in Dallas after leaving Fayetteville in 2017. He questioned what was happening there, but says she would never really get into the details about the why. She would just say she was with friends and try to portray she was fine and everything was okay. But homicide detectives determined that was not the case. Detective Neisha Lang says they discovered Raven had fallen victim to human trafficking.
She was working at a job that didn't pay very well. She was a young mother at the time, so we believe that she went to Dallas to make quick money, and the quick money was being involved in sex trafficking.
Detectives say this likely started in her hometown in Arkansas. Raven's family told deputies she began dating a man sometime after high school and had a child with him.
With the investigation, we know that that individual was exploiting Raven in the world of human trafficking.
From there, Raven moved from Dallas to Los Angeles to San Francisco and then Reno before ending up in Sacramento in November 2017. Detectives Robert Ranum and Garth Keffer say during her time in Sacramento, she frequented the areas of Stockton Boulevard and Watt Avenue.
Raven went by several names. She went by her legal name of Raven, but she also went by several street names to include Alexa and Amore.
But what really caught their attention was a short stay in an area about 50 miles from where Raven's body ended up.
However, through our investigation, we also know that period of time where she was in the Slough House, Rancho Murrieta area. And so that kind of stood out to us in the investigation. So we wanted anybody in that area, if they knew anything or saw anything, that they reach out to us.
Detective Ranham says it stood out because it appears to be an anomaly from the other locations where people had contacted her. Raven last spoke with her parents in January 2018.
There was a little bit of anxiety, a fair amount of concern about her wellness and well-being, but I honestly felt that she was making her mistakes. I've made plenty.
Several residents here tell us they still remember the exact date the body was pulled out of these docks 6 years later, and they tell us they're surprised to hear the case is still unsolved.
But I can say that we have spoken with numerous individuals that have come forward that are a part of her, or were a part of her life, and people that we had previously identified but just had difficulty finding. And then there are also those that we were not aware of in the first place that are coming forward and speaking with us.
He says although it's been 6 years, this is not a cold case by any means. They're seeking justice not only for Raven, but for her family and her 7-year-old daughter, Rose.
There's desire for the sense of closure, but I've already had my services for Raven. I've already come to terms with the fact that she's not going to be here with me anymore. Right. So all I can hope now is that we can help other families not have the same experience.
Detectives believe the public now holds the key in finding those responsible. Can this case still be solved?
Yes, there's always advances in technology, and so you kind of hope for that. And also, 6 years have gone by, like you said, relationships have changed. People that felt an allegiance to one person, or maybe an allegiance to maybe the condition that they were in at the time, and now is the time that they feel like coming out.
The case has left a mark on detectives working in the Homicide Bureau, although they see a lot of violent crimes and murders.
In the case of Raven the Bit, it's a heinous crime, and that we feel that this could happen to anybody.
For Detective Garth Keffer, he holds the case close to his heart. Staying in constant communication with the family, he vows to keep searching for those responsible.
I think about Raven's case every day. Every day I come into the office, I see the binder and I see the work that we've done on it so far.
Raven's father says he never expected to bury his own child, and the biggest reason for sharing the story is so this doesn't happen to anyone else.
To people that may have been part of this chapter or chapters of Raven's life, that may know things or may have seen things, my message to them is, let's, for her or for others, right, let's share what we know,